All right. Welcome to the HCC at Home virtual series. This is the Golf Education Part 5. Today's April 16th, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Very excited to have you join us today. For all of you watching live as well who are watching this recording. Those watching live, please send us some comments, some feedback when you're ready. If you have questions, just shoot them our way and we'll be happy to get those answered for you in a timely manner. Today's topic, we've touched on the full swing, a lot of speed drills, the fundamentals, setup, posture. Now we're going to jump into the short game a little bit, do the putting to start. We're going to keep it very simple, some things that we can do that we see as instructors very regularly that I guess even the professionals struggle with from time to time when they start not seeing the golf ball go in the hole as often as they want or as early as they want. Some of those fundamentals like setup, ball position, posture, we're going to keep hitting on those things. They're very important. Ball position within relation to the club face. So we'll touch on some of those things today. Some of the key factors that we find to be very successful regardless of height, ability, and anyway, some things that we can do to hopefully shave some strokes off the game. Statistics will definitely prove right now when you're watching the tour or anybody who tends to have a little better scoring average. The number one contributor to improved scores is definitely distance. However, the adage of you can shave more strokes by learning how to putt better is certainly true as well. We want to take those 4 putts, 3 putts, and turn those into 2 putts or 1 putt at a time. So we're going to jump right into that today. First things first, we're just going to talk about the position that we want to be in when putting. Adjust this camera down just a little bit. Same posture as we are in with the full swing. Regardless of where that ball is, we want to have those knees slightly bent and we lean over from the waist, keeping very good balance, equal between the toe and the heels, nice and neutral. As far as being distance away from the ball, it's wherever our arms are going to hang naturally. When we're in this position, nice and balanced, again, good posture in the back. As Travis mentioned in yesterday's wellness video, keeping those 3 points together, the head, the upper shoulder, and the lower torso. We want those all to be connected when putting. When we do that, the length that we want to stand away from the ball is wherever our arms hang down, that's where we want to start to grab the putter, okay? If you're taller, you probably feel like you're standing a little bit closer. If you're shorter, you might feel like you're a little bit further away. That's okay. One key indicator that we have, and there's a lot of variation on this one, but where do our eyes go? A lot of people think they need to be just directly over that, and it's hard to identify where that is. We just say you want to be either directly over it or slightly to the inside of that putter head. Now, what does that mean? Where this ball is positioned underneath our head is going to help us be able to see that line of where we're putting, where that putter is actually lined up, and how we can better understand where we're about to hit the golf ball, okay? So we're actually going to take another ball. We're going to set up to it. Again, good posture, good setup. And we're going to take this one, drop it from just underneath where our eyes are. Drop it again, just to confirm. My eyes were a little bit too far over the golf ball, and if you were to draw a straight line down, you would definitely see that. So I'm probably a little bit too close to the ball. Stand back just a little bit. If you notice where that golf ball landed, right in here. So my eyes are now directly to the inside of the golf ball, as opposed to being too far out or too far to the inside. So somewhere within about an inch or so of that would be preferred. Something you could do very easily just to check. Okay, so once I am over the golf ball and in a good, comfortable position, we want to talk about the ball position. We want to be able to put a very good roll on the ball. We got to get that ball rolling very true So one key factor we want to keep in mind is where we have that ball positioned in relation to our stance, our 2 feet. I tend to have a very narrow stance, and I try to put the ball just left of my center. If I have that ball just left of my center, I'm going to catch it more towards a very neutral position in the stroke. What we tend to see is one way or the other, we get extreme. When we get it too far back here, what that did is it actually takes the loft of the putter and it de-lofts it. It takes it down farther. When we do that, we're now pushing that ball into the ground. When that happens, a lot of resistance. Okay, the ball starts to hop just right away. So if you ever looked at your golf ball after it's rolling, or somebody said, well, it rolls a little bit funny, a lot of times it's because we aren't rolling it very well, because the impact that we're creating is in a de-lofted position, meaning that ball's too far back in our stance. So if we could, as a point of reference, wherever I line up to it, use your belly button. It's the simplest point of reference for you to understand where we are actually lined up in relation to where the ball is in between our feet. Okay, if it's too far to the back of our stance toward our right foot, if you're right-handed, if you're left-handed, it's going to be towards your left foot. If it's more towards our right toe, you're going to see a lot of shaft lean. Okay, de-lofted putter face, shaft lean towards your left. To the opposite, if it's too far forward in your stance, you're going to see an extreme amount of loft put on the putter. The ball's going to topple over and over, but you're not going to catch it in a square position. Ideally, what we're trying to do is catch that ball right in the center at a position that allows the ball to scoot, just a slight bit of loft off the ground, and then immediately start rolling end over end from back to front, back to front. When we de-loft it, it makes it skip, which we have a hard time controlling both direction and distance. Same thing when we add too much loft, we'll actually catch it in the forehead, which doesn't allow that ball to have a very consistent roll, because we're not hitting it in the very center of the club face. Okay, so working on really good posture, good ball position. One of the other things that we want to look at is actually lining up the golf ball to the center of the face. I was chatting with the other assistants, and one of the things that we had mentioned were, one of those common variables that we always touch on in every single putting lesson, and that's aligning that golf ball on the center of the club face. It's the biggest mistake that literally can be off a quarter of an inch that can make the biggest difference. Okay? It's very important that all putters have some sort of indicator on them. This one in particular has a line that goes from back or front to back. Some have a dot. Okay? Others don't. This one's a pretty face balanced putter, and that shaft is actually going to go down into almost the center of the face, in case you didn't know that. But more often than not, there's always an indicator of where that line's going to meet the center of the face. It's not just for direction. And just like if we can hit a driver right in the center, and we understand that that's going to produce the max power, the max distance, and the best results from a direction standpoint as well, the same is so true on a putter, if not even more important. Okay, we need to be able to understand two things when we're putting: our distance control and our direction. If we match those two together, our long putts are going to be much closer to the hole, and we're going to have far less doubt or concern or fear of missing putts. We're just going to be able to roll the ball really well. Okay. One of the things that we can do, I actually have a couple of rubber bands. Hopefully you have some of those. You can take one of these, you put it towards the heel of the putter, okay, like so. So if you can see, it's just on the inside of that line. You can take the other line, or rubber band, I apologize. Now we have it lined up, okay, so that we have one rubber band on each side, indicating really the center line. And what it'll do is a couple of things. It'll help you focus on one where we're lined up, as well as how we are aligned with the centerness of the putter and putting the golf ball in the best position to have an accurate roll. Okay. The other thing that will happen with that is if we happen to make contact with the rubber band, you're going to feel it immediately. The ball's going to go a completely different direction. It's not going to be as appealing of a shot, even though it's a small putt. Okay, so I have about a 4-footer here. I've got good posture, I hope. Good distance away from the ball. My arms are nice and relaxed. One last thing we want to look at, other than good ball position, both on where we're lined up with the putter, is also how the putter sits on the ground. Okay, so if we take the back of my hand here, and we are going to go into addressing the golf ball, we want that putter to be about as flush from the center on the ground as we possibly can. So we talked about hitting the ball with the center of the club face is going to dramatically improve your distance control and direction. The other thing, if we want this ball to roll end over end, we need to be able to also put a very good roll on it and not having the toe up in the air or the heel up off the ground. When we do that, it actually puts unnecessary side spin on the ball. So if I hit this ball and it's, even though it's centered, but the toe's way up in the air, it actually puts left to right or right to left spin on it, and you're going to start hooking that ball and hitting it left of your target. Even though you might be lined up at your target, it actually starts aiming it left. Conversely, when I start aiming it and the heel's up off the ground, it's going to do that left to right, so that you'll start to see that ball go off to your right just a little bit. Okay. Again, good posture, good ball position. Eyes are in a good spot. My putter is pretty square to the ground, that we find to be very consistent with good putters, regardless of handicap. You could be a 45 handicap and you can be a good putter. We've seen it. We have plenty of them. Just because it takes a few more times to get to the green doesn't mean they aren't good putters. So 0 handicap, 45 handicap, there are good putters and they have good characteristics and skills developed. Getting the elbow and arms, this whole forearm area lined up on with both arms with the shaft, the same angle, okay? If we can get those lined up to where there's a consistent line going right down to the shaft there, okay? We're gonna have a much easier chance of just swinging the shoulders and presenting that club in a square fashion to the ball more consistently and more often, okay? When we get those hands a little bit too low, see how that putter face comes up, or the toe of the putter comes up. As well, if it's too high, if I get my hands too high, then that heel starts coming up off the ground, okay? When we do that, the ball is just not going to roll as consistently as what we would like, okay? So again, good posture, good stance, good ball position. All these things are great. Now I need to just clear all my thought process out. I need to hit the ball, okay? So from a fundamental standpoint, just threw out a number of scenarios that we see that affect and impact putting and the success of putting. Now let's talk a little bit about the stroke, the flow of that, and how we can implement these same practices. Right now, we don't even have to hit a golf ball. We can practice some of these things that we talked about with just static implementation. I don't need a golf ball there. I can just practice getting into this position, making my hand adjustment, and getting comfortable with what that feels like before I ever even have to introduce a golf ball, okay? For fun's sake, I'm gonna get lined up. I'm gonna keep my head nice and neutral, get nice and comfortable over the ball, take one last look at the cup where I'm trying to hit it. Nice smooth stroke, okay? Missed it just a little left of my target, but I hit a pretty solid putt and I'm pretty happy with it. One big thing that we see that can be a common error is looking up too early at our target, okay? Keeping our head still, as you might have heard it over and over again. What does that really mean, and what do we see as a common error? From that head-on position, the way we watch it is when somebody's stroking their putt, they oftentimes hit the ball and simultaneously they look and almost move their upper body into the shot. If we think about how little movement there is just in a pendulum motion, going back and forth, there's almost no wavering back and forth there. Okay, just let the putter move. Once we implement the body moving or the head moving too soon, now all of a sudden I have more factors initiating their will on the putter. We don't need that. We need to trust what we're going to do is make a good stroke at it. Whenever we hit it, we have no control over that ball anymore. Okay, so everything that we can do to set ourselves up for success, to where once we make impact, you've done all you can do. That's what you can control. From there on, it's wherever the ball's going to go. Okay, I'm going to do my very best to get lined up. I think this putt breaks just a little bit to the left. I'm going to keep my head very still, very smooth stroke. You notice I didn't even lift my head up until the ball was almost to the hole. I'm going to do that one more time. See if I can actually make a putt for a change. Keep my head very still, just a swing of the shoulders. Okay. Again, I have about a 4-foot putt. I really don't care if I make it or not. In this instance, I'm working on those fundamentals. Am I lining the ball up in the center of the club face? Do I have good posture? Is what I'm doing repeatable? So when we're watching most of the players who struggle with their putting, what they do, they may only have one thing that they need to work on or improve on, but whatever is the mistake or the error that they're implementing into their putting, they're repeating that mistake over and over, and they're fighting it. They lose the confidence in that. So what we try to do is make it very, very simple. Okay, all these little aligning the ball, making sure that it's right in the dead center, making sure the base of it's flush, doing these little things that you can control. It's how you set up. We're trying to do that so that you're as successful as you possibly can be. Because as we know, once you strike the ball, it's out of your control. You've put your will into it. You've done your best, but whatever happens from there happens, okay? One last thing we wanted to touch on today was just a little bit of distance control. Okay, it's one thing to be able to line yourself up, to be able to put that good roll on the ball. Lastly, we want to be able to control distance, and very simply, it's a matter of the length of the stroke. Okay, so if we notice, I had this little 3-4 footer. The total length of the stroke was very small. Okay, it was maybe 4 or 5 inches back, 4 or 5 inches through, maybe a little bit further. I'm always accelerating through the shot, especially when we're putting. We want to accelerate through it. Where we see that to be the challenge is more often than not, the putter gets taken back so far, way too far for a short putt, and then they have to slow down going into it. So they slow that putter down going into the ball, and they start leaving the ball short. The next time they go with that same length of putt, they go into it a little bit harder, and now it's 5 to 8 feet by the hole. We've taken a very short putt, and now we've 3-putted. So if we understand where that's going, we want to be able to control our distance with a consistent acceleration. Short putts is a short distance back. Okay, 5 inches back, 5 to 6 inches through. As we go to those longer putts, let's say I want to go 30, 40 feet away, it becomes a longer stroke. Okay, I'm going to take the club back longer with the shoulders. I'm going to accelerate through, again, keeping my head very still. Body was very still. It's just a matter of how long I took the putter back, and I accelerated through with very simple tempo. Okay, really don't want to have a whole lot of force into that stroke when we get it to be a little bit longer for a longer putt. Okay, it's that same tempo and rhythm, just like a pendulum. I've got my arms lined up with the same line of the shaft. Okay, good balance in the feet. Just practicing swinging those shoulders just in the same motion. It's very small, very subtle. Okay, when I line up, everything's exactly the same. balance, just trying to toss that ball. Head nice and still, shoulders are still. If it goes in, great. If it doesn't, all we're trying to do is get it as close as we can so that when we have that shorter putt, we're nice and confident and we can have some confidence in making the next one. One last thing, just had a question come through. Appreciate the question. The question was, how important is a routine? I would say in any golf shot, it's going to help you, whether it's from the tee, the approach shot, a bunker shot, chipping or putting. It's very important. None so more important than on the putting green. What a routine's going to allow you to do is to be comfortable with the setup, with the stroke, with what your intent is going to be within the putting game. The guys laugh at me in the golf shop because I say that putting is the game within the game. You have the tee ball, the approach shot, chipping around the green, and then you get to the putting green, and it's like a whole new world for people. I think of it as a putting course. So I have a chance to have 1, 2, maybe 3 putts on the green, whatever it is, but it's that game within a game. And developing a routine is going to allow you to be much more comfortable and consistent every shot, no matter if you have a little teeny putt from here or if you're putting from 50 feet. You're going to develop that habit that is consistent for you to get yourself in the best position to feel confident and comfortable in making the best stroke possible. Okay? So we're going to cut it off now. I've given you a whole lot of things to think about. Just trust that when you implement some of these things, you may not find that some of these work for you. Some do. This isn't meant for one individual. It's definitely meant for you just to kind of look at what you may do, and hopefully you can implement some of this at home. It doesn't have to be out here in a putting green. You probably have a lot more fun putting on a hardwood surface or some concrete where you really don't care if you're making the putt. And then with one last thing, I think that's actually very important when we're working on improving or making these little adjustments. Don't even putt to a hole. We don't care if we're going to make it necessarily. We want to make sure that we're implementing these things for a good feel, for good posture, just to make the change, and then start introducing the hole after you feel like you've made the change and you feel comfortable with it without actually having to think about it. Okay? If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send us an email. Give us a call in the golf shop. We're happy to provide some further detail. The next session, we'll jump a little bit more on the short game. And otherwise, good luck out there. Turn those 3 putts into 2 putts, and I hope you make a few more. Have a great one.